here for my
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lindsay Berg. I'm General Manager for Industry Marketing at Microsoft. I cover telecommunications, media, financial services, retail, and consumer goods. I'm a little bit delighted that some percentage of you in the audience have popcorn today, because it feels, frankly, as though we should all have popcorn, sitting as we do in front of one of the greatest technical spectacles of, I think, our lifetimes. We've survived cloud, we've survived the change to digital, we've survived the change to mobile, but I think that this change, what we're calling the frontier transformation or the AI transformation, is really more significant in its implications for our population than any technology change that we've hitherto seen. When we think about the impact of that change on telecommunications in particular, it really runs across the full spectrum of experiences for a telecommunications provider. For telcos today, there are two basic and fundamental concerns, and one of them is connectivity, which needs to be solid, reliable, something that your customers don't even think about. And then there is the customer experience, where we want to offer new experiences, new services, innovation, personalization, really turning that new customer experience into something that will retain customers in the face of overwhelming pressure to shift and churn. We've listed a number of topics here where we think that the challenges are acute. Certainly in personalization, because customer expectations of personalization continue to rise. But the opportunity of personalization also continues to expand. The more that I know about a customer, the more likely it is that I can provide them with the information or the service that will prevent them from choosing my competitor. When we look at the potential of AI ops, something that we've now been talking about, for 5-10 years, we're really beginning to reach the potential of how we could think differently about maintaining operations. Data security and data sovereignty are two of the most critical concerns for any company, but particularly for a telecommunications provider, where, as I noted, that trust is key to the relationship with the customer. They have to know that the connectivity is solid, that they know where their data is, that we can abide by local regulation in any country in which we operate. Migration and modernization continues to be a challenge. The move to the cloud was not as simple as I think we hoped, and continues to rely on legacy infrastructure in places where we would prefer to have faster connectivity. We try to turn our data from silos into a unified pool that we can operate against. And the promise of AI is never going to be real until we can turn that data into a more unified pool. And finally, growing beyond connectivity and thinking about what enterprise-grade offers telcos can make, monetizing APIs, monetizing the vast array of data that moves through telecommunications systems. So these are just some of the challenges where we believe that AI might have an impact, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how. We believe that AI is already delivering impact. We say that for every dollar a company invests in AI, it's realizing an average return of $3.70. I think that it is also about a transformed experience, and it will be a while before we can measure the value of that transformed customer experience. We see that top leaders using generative AI are seeing a 10x return on investment, and that's because there is nothing more powerful than being able to talk to your technology. That instead of people having to learn how to ask a question, they can ask a question in natural language and receive information in return. And finally, we hear, obviously, 64% of C-level telco executives are focused on scaling AI. I have to believe that number is actually higher. I think we're all looking for the places that the ROI of AI is going to become clear. On my team, we call it the return on intelligence. Where are you going to see AI make a difference over time? Frontier transformation is something that we've been talking about all week, and so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, because if you haven't heard about frontier transformation and you've been at this conference since Tuesday, I'm not sure that I am the person to bring you up to speed. We want to talk about what frontier transformation means for telcos specifically. It's this idea of a strategic shift to an AI-first organization, and I don't think anyone's there yet. I think we're all beginning to understand the opportunity, but it's going to be a little while before we really see the places where we can have impact with AI in the work that we do every day. We say that AI is most impactful when it lands within the flow of work. That is an enormous challenge, because what it means is that it will have to transform the everyday lives, the everyday tasks, the everyday automatic reactions of every worker within a system. We're talking about AI in a highly persona-based way for a reason, because AI has to operate within the flow of the work for an individual persona, for an individual job function, within the country's regulations that you operate against, within the particular policies of individual companies. For organizations who are putting AI at the center of their operations, we're calling them frontier firms, who are beginning to make that transformational step forward and who are understanding that this idea of human-led AI collaboration really has the potential to make all of us faster, to deliver on the agility that we've been demanding from technology for decades. Frontier transformation in telecommunication, we talk about against 4 pillars. Again, I believe that these 4 pillars should be moderately familiar to you after the last couple of days, but I want to talk about what they mean for telco. When we say enrich employee experiences, what we mean in this instance is I want to be certain that a customer service worker, when they're talking to someone on the phone, has in front of them the information that they need to make that the maximally valuable interaction. That someone has told them what stage in the life cycle of the promotion that customer is in. When are they likely to demand a new price? Have they been traveling internationally? Could I offer them a deal on how they think about international connectivity? Could I offer them bundled services? I've certainly had this happen myself. People, they can look in front of them and see what you have now and how you could be grouping your services more efficiently. What is a logical next service for a customer who has this existing set? All of those are questions that will transform how we think about the employee experience as well as the customer experience because of the satisfaction of being able to actually deliver on what a customer is asking for without having to run through a million different systems. And then on the other side of the house, we have reshaping business processes. We have accelerating decision-making, thinking about new insights that might actually change how we think about operations largely and its scale. When you make a small change, it's helpful to be able to understand the potential implications of those operational changes in a single country, in a region, globally, but then also, again, for the personas and functions throughout your organization. And finally, bending the curve on innovation, which really is my favorite. What else could we do? And AI is a wonderful tool for helping us ideate and create. We sometimes think about AI as replacing humans, and it doesn't really. But the opportunity to interact with something that can ask you creative questions and get your process flowing, as well as giving you data on the types of experiences that customers might enjoy or that your competitors are offering, those are all things that we think of as bending the curve on innovation for telecommunications. We have 4 customers that we talk about against these pillars. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. This isn't theoretical, I think is the point that I really want to make. When we think about PLDT, which is a shared customer between us and our partner Amdocs, and I know Liliana will reference them in a little bit, so we're not going to spend a lot of time on this one. But the general idea that they're improving response times because they understand the connection between customer needs and underlying network performance issues. We are looking at Vodafone, who is reducing contact center load by deflecting over 40% of their inquiries to AI-powered virtual agents. One of the great lessons of the global pandemic, when we started routing a lot of traffic into chatbots, was that if you have a set of common questions and a set of common answers, you can really save an enormous amount of time by not forcing a single human being to answer the question every 5 minutes that an AI chatbot could answer. T-Mobile, reshaping business processes. When we think about streamlining operations by deploying Agentic AI, they're looking at multi-step processes and where can they eliminate steps in those processes or find timing advantages by automating them. And finally, Lumen is delivering new services against their customer base, thinking about how the data that they carry and have had sitting there for years, how that data can be transformational in understanding the opportunity with individual customers. I'm going to take a quick minute, since theoretically some of you in our audience are our partners. Our commitment to our partners in telecommunications is that for every $1 of Microsoft revenue, we would expect that our software-led partners make $10.93 in economic value. Microsoft is the platform. That's our job. And we bring in partners across the ecosystem, and in a few minutes you're going to hear from a couple of my partners on how that really takes place. When we invest in our partner success, we see more transformation. We have resources around skilling and enablement, specializations and designations, go-to-market and partner readiness, and offerings and incentives, and all of those are readily available to you through these links. And finally, I highly recommend that you explore some of the top AI use cases that we are seeing in telecommunications today. In industry marketing, we made the decision some months ago that we would pivot the majority of our efforts into these specific AI use cases. Because if AI isn't connected to a specific business process, it's not real. So we're looking at how Vodafone and Telstra are improving subscriber satisfaction. We're looking at enhancing productivity with AI-powered automation. I won't read through all of them, but we would love to hear from you, either after this session or later online. Are these the use cases where you're seeing opportunity? Because we're guessing a little bit. We guess based on data, but this is still an unknown space for all of us. And for me, I think that's one of the things that I love best about a career in technology, is the spaces where we are exploring what is not yet determined and what is not yet fully understood. I do think that the opportunity for safeguarding the network is high. We think that the opportunities for detecting fraud are high. We think there are other spaces within the telecommunications environment where we could see real benefits to real human beings. I will not drain this particular slide about co-sell readiness, but please be aware that this information is all available to our partners. When we think about strategically aligning marketing with our partners, this is the kind of thing that I want to be able to do. I'll introduce Liliana and Eugene properly in a minute, but we've had the opportunity across this week to have conversations about how we want to go to market together. Because particularly when you're facing a situation that is not well understood and not yet well defined, going to market together can make an enormous difference. We look at co-selling, we look at customer engagement, we look at demand gen, we look at those things together because we believe that if we go to customers together with our partners, that we as a platform company are not only stronger and better informed, we are better supported, and our customers are better supported. I would now love to introduce to you our partners. So with me today, I have Liliana Schwartz-Brunner, who is with Amdocs, and I have Eugene Lawrence with Nokia. I'm excited to play for you a couple of quick videos that will introduce them a little bit more, their businesses a little bit more, and then I'm going to sit down and ask them some questions about their experience so that we're not all speaking with one voice.
I think what the partnership brings together are two world-class organizations, Nokia and Microsoft, leveraging our innovative solutions in network, IT, AI, security, and helping really the telcos transform and really bring that overall ability to drive to a data-driven, secure business. So with Nokia's innovation on the security space, combined with Microsoft's deep technology acumen around cloud and AI and networks and security, that's what brings this partnership really to life. That's what provides the overall value to the service providers.
Couldn't agree more with you, Monty. It's Nokia's capabilities and understanding of the technology, telco technology, and the cloud-native world, coupled with Azure's global reach, as well as the ecosystem and the associated tools that really delivers the right value to our communication service provider customers.
Thank you.
Telecom providers are determined to make the most of the Agentic era, an era of ultra-personalized experiences and fully autonomous operations. This is where Amdocs Amaze Suite comes into play. A modular AI solution built specifically for telcos. Built natively on Azure and certified on the Azure Marketplace. Wherever you are on your data journey, and whatever your business requirements may be, Amaze with Amdocs data and AI services, together with Microsoft, are designed to easily plug in and help you unleash the full power of your data.
Super. Choking a little, sorry. Okay, great. I think we're all ready to go. So I'm going to join my fellow panelists here. We're going to start by talking about the real-world impact of agentic AI. So both Amdocs and Nokia have been at the forefront of deploying AI in your organizations, and specifically in telecom operations. I wonder if you could share a specific example, and I will start with Eugene.
Sure. So you shared the Claro logo earlier. Excuse me.
A lot of the coughing going on.
Exactly,
Sorry
yes. So we've been partnering for some time with Microsoft, years actually, on building telco-specific cybersecurity software solutions. So we're building these on Azure, using Sentinel, using a lot of the tools that you have available, and then bringing Nokia's expertise in how telecom networks operate, the 3GPP standards. So we're putting these together into a solution that we call CyberDome, and it's meant to be a network security solution. And we're using Agentic AI as part of it. When we launched it originally, it had AI, but it was more on the reactive side, like using it for anomaly detection, where might we think there is a breach that could occur. And now, more recently, we've started introducing agents into this security solution that are proactively hunting for threats. And so it's been really a topic of great interest because, unfortunately, telecom networks all over the world have been the subject of many cyber criminal attacks. So Claro is one example in Latin America that is using the solution that we developed together, 35 million subscribers, as a way to help secure their network against these attacks. And these attacks are really challenging because many times a cyber criminal will enter the network and sit there latent for weeks, months, years, and later attack. So having these agents that can more proactively hunt for these threats and remediate them before they impact customer experience, we all know the risks there. So I think, together that's been a really powerful solution that we've developed. And also, as you had mentioned, from a go-to-market perspective, we do a lot of joint account planning, figure out what customers we want to take the solution to together. So I would say it's a partnership based on both the technology and the joint innovation at the product level, as well as from a go-to-market perspective.
And I really think it's a great example of an agentic scenario because you can train an agent what signs to look for. Sort of they can look for they're better at pattern identification than an individual human would be, just because you can train them so easily. Liliana, I'd love to hear about an agentic example from Amdocs.
So I want to go a little bit back. So what do we do with Amdocs on the entire area of Gen AI and agentic solutions? So you probably saw in this short video, Amdocs is a solution and a platform to create different agents. It's called 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗻𝗄. It's Amdocs AI is, but it's amazing.
I love your name, it's always fun.
And it's running on Azure. And we started this idea of creating telco-specific solutions because I think eventually you have to be very knowledgeable in order to gain trust, in order to gain the right response, and you need to really understand the data. We'll talk about that too. So through 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗻𝗄, we have experienced a few scenarios with our customers, and I'll share one in North America. So we took our agent, our care agent, billing care agent of Amdocs, and used some of the data, because we know how the data flows, and applied some logic to it with the customers. And we managed, within less than 6 months, improve their NPS, their scores, by 20 points. And then the average handling time when someone calls was improved by 63%. And then, and that can go on and on. And then I want to go to PLDT. PLDT is actually deploying a product that is based on Microsoft Dynamics and Amdocs solution, and it creates an intelligent agent that helps the CSRs to resolve issues. And we actually had the CIO presenting here in this event. And he's very, very excited. You could see how he's excited to see those results. So he reported at 27 points of NPS increase. So the customers appreciate, they like it. And he loves this solution called CEP. It's Customer Engagement Platform. And he talks about the entire customer experience. And as I said, this is a product-to-product integration. When we bring the brightest and the best of Microsoft and Amdocs technology savvy in telecommunication coming together, I think it's fantastic results that we see together. So these are two examples, but we internally use a lot of the Copilot itself. So some of the productivity we could see in our sales cycle. So we see about 25% growth in like improvement, how we do like RFP response and how we learn the different business case that we're running through Copilots. We are implementing in our marketing campaign Copilot as well. So there is so many levels of interaction and use of Copilot and agents and Amdocs' unique, information of over 4 decades of telecom industry.
Oh, that's fantastic. I think what I'd love to understand from each of you is what lessons did you learn along this way? And so maybe, Jean, if you could tell me a little bit about, what were the learnings as you moved forward with bringing more security into the network?
Yeah, I mean, I think with so much of this, and you had mentioned it as well, it really relies on data to begin with, obviously, for anything that has to do with AI. And when you're looking at telco networks, they're very complex. There are many different elements, whether it's a mobile network or a broadband network. So making sure that you've got good visibility into the data, into the topology, ways of visualizing that. The data doesn't all have to be together, but it has to be governed, and there has to be a way to access all of that data in a very secure way. And then I think, in our case, because we have, the telecom networks and that expertise, we bring also that ability to understand the telco data models. I think that there have been a lot of forays into like security that have been less telco specific. And the way you run network security, like on an IT network, is quite different than what you run on a telecom network. And so we have a lot of customers that we're talking to, together, that have tried more IT-based solutions, and a lot of the learning from that is the importance of that telco specificity in the data models and in the solutions that we're building. So.
Yeah, and Liliana obviously also brought up this idea of telco specificity, which I really think is critical to our success in bringing AI into any environment. This is, it's just not, every industry that I work with has such unique concerns. The more that you get in, I know for me certainly, is the more that I've got into industry marketing, the more I've understood the challenges of a vertical space. So, and then Liliana, I'd love to understand from you, obviously you've measured these projects, you're very clear on the success of the projects. What were some, blockers that you might have experienced, or some challenges?
So I think, obviously, data. I think without good data and unified data, your results are not going to be accurate. So again, as we mentioned numerous times in this discussion, data is everything. So you need to be able, in order to be able to see a unified data, you really need to understand the space, right? So you need to know where to take the data from in order to create the best, response out there. I think the other thing, it's a challenge that you need to understand the customer reality and every customer is slightly different, and what is actually their pain point. And sometimes you're looking for the high value resolutions, like where do we start, right? To define where we start. And if we, looking at the entire telco communications, because Amdocs probably has about 80% of telcos worldwide. There are some parts of Amdocs installed in different parts of customers. But when you look at where they all wanted to start, they all wanted to start from how they impact the customer experience.
Yeah.
But now they are shifting towards understanding like how to improve the network, right? How to make the network more autonomous, right? How to connect between problems in the network and the customer experience. So, it's evolving, right? It's evolving. So understanding the customer and customer reality, and sometimes you need to tweak it.
Yeah.
Because not everyone's facing the same thing. On a big scheme of things, yes, everyone wants to improve the customer experience. But then you really need to learn what is the pain point for that specific customer.
That really does make sense.
Can I just build on that for one moment? So autonomous networks are, of course, a huge theme in telecom. We commissioned some research with the TM Forum, which is a big industry association, just a few months ago on what is driving telcos towards wanting to accelerate their journey towards autonomous networks. Is it customer experience? Is it reduced cost of operations, OpEx, all of that kind of thing? And to your point, all of those are a really important part of the mix, but this survey that we did, which was global and pretty extensive, interestingly, customer experience was the #1 driver on autonomous networks. You sort of think of it as like, okay, hands-free, all of the sort of operational benefits, but the whole driver behind that for our customers who are in, fierce competition for their customers, the better you can predict an anomaly before it happens. You prevent a network outage, before it annoys the end customer. That has a huge bearing on their churn, on all of that kind of thing. So I think there's a really tight linkage between this whole journey to autonomous networks, which is very much AI-driven, agentic, all of that. At the end of the day, it's all about, improving the customer experience, as you said, and many other ancillary financial benefits to the operators.
Yeah, I think what I've been hearing is that initially there was a lot of hesitation about bringing AI into the network operations, that there was a lot more enthusiasm about bringing it into the customer experience aspect of the network and of connectivity. Why do you think people are more open now to bringing it to customer experience, Liliana? Do you think, as you've sort of watched your customers open themselves up to thinking more broadly about AI?
I think it's the time does the trick,
Yeah.
right? We evolve, everyone, right?
Yeah.
We evolve. I think we start gaining a little bit more trust, right? And trust comes with a lot of responsibility. And I think they understand, they explored a lot of the customer experience, like the initial use cases that we've seen is like, oh, how we reduce the calls, right, to the call center, how we make the customers happy. But then there is a strong correlation between like outages in network or some hiccups in network and the customer experience. So now they're like going deeper, right? So that it's like the low-hanging fruit is how we improve the customer experience immediately, like the average handling time, how they're not calling again to the call center. Sure. But then they want to go to so they saw it's working. We saw like very nice percentage, the NPS going up, the average handling going down. Now they go deeper. We're gaining slowly and surely the trust, and that's where now they're looking into the network. And obviously network is probably the largest expense that every telco has, right? So it's operations, as well as you said, like you've done the survey, but eventually you want to connect between like all the different things that impact the customers, and network is absolutely one of them. So I think trust, you're getting trust, experience, so they're going deeper.
And I like that, and I think, Jean, I'd love to ask you that question. It's interesting when you think about it, that your initial focus area was in security of the network, which is an area that must have required such high trust from your customers to let you even tackle that area. What sort of hurdles did you have to overcome in the initial customer conversations or as you deployed?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, I think that networks have become much more complex. Even the journey from 4G to 5G, there are far more antennas, there are more basebands, there are so many more. The threat exposure surface, as they say, is much greater with 5G than it was with 4G. They're more open networks in many ways, which also means that the threats are more significant. And of course, every generation that goes on, every year that goes on, we depend on our phones and our connectivity, broadband, all of that, much more than we did before. So I think it's coming to the point where operators telcos are realizing the risks are so much higher than they were in the past, and the ramifications of attacks are so much more severe. And because of AI being used sort of on the dark side of things as well for attacks, I'm seeing that customers who a couple of years ago, 3-4 years ago, were kind of like, I think we're good, now are not, and everyone, I think, has a heightened awareness of how important it is. I mean, the cost of an average network breach now is well over $5 million. And it's well worth making an investment to try and protect that. So it's just, I think the way networks have gotten so much more open and more complex just makes it easier to attack them, and so they need the tools.
And I like this idea that because the problem is so painful, you really want to tackle it with any tool you can get your hands on. I think that it sounds like that's part of the sort of the response to the issue. Liliana, you've talked a lot about measuring success. I think it was really notable in your introductory remarks how clear you were on those KPIs. How did you work with customers to establish those for your project specifically?
So, you have to work with the customer, right? To see, you have to have a baseline. They need to help you to define that baseline, and they need to help you to define like what is the potential outcome they're looking for when you use those different, agent use cases. And then you want to overachieve. You probably want to set the target, tough, but you want to overachieve it. So you have to work closely with the customer, and it's never works the first time. So you run it, you improve the data, you have to be very agile, to be able to fine-tune the models, right? Fine-tune the data, and work very, very closely with the customer to see if that's what they're looking for. It's not what we think is the right thing, it's what the customer thinks is the outcome should be. So it should be an outcome, type of results that we define together, but it's his outcome. And as I said before, there might be different outcomes for different customers on the same case, right? Yeah. So working very, very closely with the customer and, have this feedback loop constantly to improve the models all the time.
Yeah, and I think, and asking questions early on what would be a success for us and measuring that baseline, because I think that's the step that so often is missed, is that you don't understand what the baseline was before you began the experiment. I'd like to ask just both of you, we're talking a lot about security, data security, regulatory compliance. Have you seen that evolving? Have you seen that getting in the way of innovation? Or how do you think about the general problem of regulatory compliance and innovation with tools like AI? Either of you who wants to volunteer? Jean?
Well, I think security has a lot of regulation. Nokia, of course, operates in many countries around the world, and they all have their own security requirements. So we put a lot of effort also into making sure that our products comply with the security requirements of all of these various governments. And when you think about kind of like what's coming next from a security perspective, the big thing that we have our eyes on, I'm sure others do as well, is the quantum safe networks. And quantum computing and this whole idea of harvesting data now and then being able to decrypt it later. So we, Bell Labs is a part of Nokia, so we're putting a lot of effort through Bell Labs into research into sort of what are the next frontiers of security, how do we expect the threats to evolve, how do we expect the regulations to evolve, and how do we at Nokia, together with our Bell Labs, stay a step or two ahead of that. So it's a very quickly evolving space.
That makes sense. And on the customer experience side, how do you handle regulatory challenges?
So it's the core of how we build everything, right? So there is what we call trusted AI, robust core layer of all our solutions. So, and it will include everything, like obviously security, regulation, observability, making sure that we are the guardrails around how we respond. So all that is a baseline for everything. So, and we constantly improving. We're working with NVIDIA. They have their solution about the guardrails, the behavior control, the guardrails. We work with, obviously on the data side, we work with Microsoft Fabric. We have so many different partners on different layers to make sure that we are tackling the baseline, like with security, requirements, regulations, all that creates the trust for us to use the tool. So it's the basic thing. Yeah. We are constantly improving, constantly working with different partners, but this is like bread and butter for us. We will not move without it, and constantly updating.
And I like to think that we're good partners to you on that particular topic, because obviously trust in AI is a very high priority for Microsoft. I'd love to actually ask each of you, I don't think you'd be here with me today if your partnership with Microsoft were not successful. I don't think this would be a conversation we would be having. So can you tell me a little bit about what you think makes for a successful collaboration or partnership? And I'll start with Eugene.
Sure. So I work in marketing. I'm the CMO of one of Nokia's business groups. And I would say from where I sit from a marketing perspective, Microsoft is by far our closest partner, because you're willing to invest with us from a marketing perspective. So just last week, for example, together we did something that we called a security circle. 600 people, telcos from all over the world, a virtual event that we put on together, generated good leads that we're jointly pursuing. But I think the fact that you're willing to invest with us, we're willing to invest with you, so that we can together be thought leaders. Like, what is the future of security in telecom networks? How are we building that together? What are the upcoming threats? How is regulation changing? These are all the things that together we're producing, thought leadership, events, papers, that kind of thing. Last year, so I travel quite a lot around the world. I'm sure many of you do too. And I was in the Middle East for an event in May. And it was amazing, the focus on security. I mean, everyone in the world cares about security, but that region does in particular. And we did an event with Microsoft specifically for the Middle Eastern CSPs and their concerns about security. So I feel like the partnership is really good because we have a lot of innovative ideas. The ways we're approaching this with Agentic AI are pretty unparalleled, but you have to get that story out.
Right.
And that requires marketing, it requires events, it requires thought leadership. And I think your willingness to partner with us and ours to partner with you has really helped us together help the industry in terms of advancing some of these ideas. So that's my take sitting in a marketing chair.
Yeah.
It's been really
I think
productive relationship.
That's really great. Liliana, what's been your experience?
So I think we have so many different layers of partnership with Microsoft, and I think we bring amazing things together, right? Mm-hmm. So we are more like telco verticalization knowledge, and you are more horizontal, and you're one of the best. So I think our partnership evolved in so many layers. As I described before, CP is a product to product. You have an amazing product called Dynamics, like for sales, care, and this is something that we are good at on the telco. So you're here, we're here, and our combination is very, very strong. And we see like the reaction from the industry, right? When we go together, I think they understand we together can improve so many things to our customers. So I think that's one layer. Obviously, the power of going to market together, the partnership is absolutely fantastic. I mean, here we are today.
Mm-hmm. I know, I kind of cheated on it. It's like, I'm going to ask the people who are here.
But I'm saying like the marketing is so much smarter today, and we're so dependent on it. Mm-hmm. We can have great ideas in a closed room, and no one will know about it. So running those campaigns together, go to market together, strategize it together, and everyone brings different angle to it. I think it's 1 + 1, I call it 11. It's not 2 or 3, it's just way more. So I think that the go-to-market is amazing, the partnership, and we learn from each other. I think we're nourishing, learning, sharing, and we're natural agents, I guess.
Right.
Here, the 3 agents talking agent to agent right now from different companies, right? Like we do right now. So I think the layers are so wide and bright for us. I'm very excited. And my background is managing customers. I'm coming from sales. I was the president of North America before. And I saw the potential of those strategic partners like yourself. Mm-hmm. And I thought the company has to shift to really, really think about how we're shifting. I can say that DNA, you cannot change DNA, but you can change the way we think and the way we partner, because I think it brings us to completely new heights together.
Which means you've made even a career choice around focusing on collaboration and partnership. So I'd love...
Lindsay, I just wanted to add one thing too. I talked a lot about the marketing side of things, but another area where our partnership I think is helpful for us is that it's an accelerant to R&D.
Yes.
So for us to be able to build, like this cybersecurity dome, other things that we're doing together with you, it makes far more sense for us to partner with you to have, like the foundation of what we're building, and then we add the telco specificity on top of it, as opposed to where we wouldn't have differentiation. I think so much of partner strategy is where are you really differentiated and that's your thing, mm-hmm. and where are you not, and you should partner there. And so I think, in many ways, we have accelerated our own R&D by partnering with you to get the initial big chunk of something, and then we add on top of it. And so I think that partnership, helps all of us, but it's a real product level partnership as well.
Absolutely, and it requires very close communication between mm-hmm. your engineering teams and our engineering teams to make sure that we're experimenting together instead of experimenting like this, which I think can be sort of problematic. We are running closer to the end of our time. I wondered if each of you would provide some closing remarks on about what do you think about the agentic opportunity. Since this is about frontier transformation, what do you expect to see? Do you have a vision? Does your company have a vision? I mean, you can take this whatever direction you really want to take it.
So Amdocs is going through major transformation.
Yeah.
Internally, right? So we are actually mapping all the different roles, the skill sets, upscale. Some skills we do upskill, others we're changing. Mm-hmm. So we're going through a major transformation internally. So our CEO and our vision, our strategy is very much AI first. So we're implementing internally. We're like walk the walk and talk the talk.
Become a frontier organization.
Yes, there we go. So, and it's actually happening, and we have changed. We made some organizational changes as well, and we have now a whole unit that runs all the Gen AI for the internal use, as well as establishing those amaze agents within our product.
The customer offerings. Yeah.
The customer offerings, as well as like managed services and you know the different other offers around SI services, right? We want to have agents that can take some of the burden that we're doing right now on our own.
Great.
So a lot of good journey ahead of us.
Wonderful. Jean?
So at Nokia, who had a Nokia phone back in the day? Yeah, so our tagline used to be connecting people. You know, the phones, the networks, obviously we've been out of the phone business for a long time, but we have a new CEO at Nokia who just started this year. And he unveiled just yesterday kind of our new, or his new vision, all of our new vision for the company, which is about connecting intelligence. And the term he uses a lot is the AI supercycle, and that our role is to help our customers, the telcos, capitalize on the AI supercycle, transform themselves. You know, the frontier concept, I think, is really a lot about the mission that Nokia has to help our customers, you know, through the products we provide, to take advantage of these agentic capabilities, to use AI to run their networks better, to provide a better customer experience. So I think, you know, from our perspective, the future is very much about AI, agentic AI, the AI supercycle, and that it's also very much about partnership and the kinds of partnerships that we're talking about here. So it's an exciting future.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you for reinforcing sort of my thought, which was that if we went forward together, we were likely to have more impact and be able to experiment faster, because it's something that I've definitely seen working with both Nokia and Amdocs. So thank you very much, everyone. Really enjoyed having you here today. And if you have additional questions, please feel free to come up afterwards. We're excited to continue to talk about the frontier transformation for telecommunications. Thank you.
Thank you.